Hello and welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your on-the-go source for the latest insights in the procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing industry. Today we're joined by Source One Senior Consultant Torey Guingrich to discuss a prevailing challenge for procurement groups, having an impact in IT. For many organizations, IT spend is off limits to procurement. In today's conversation, we'll uncover some of the reasons behind procurement's limited reach in IT and how companies can bring the two business units together to support overarching enterprise-wide goals. So let's get started with introductions. Tory, do you want to give a little bit of a background to your experience in procurement and your role at Source One?
Sure. I'm Tory Gannett, as you mentioned. I'm a senior consultant at Source One Management Services. In terms of my experience in procurement, coming out of school, I started my career as a practitioner in corporate procurement at a manufacturing company. I began with more MRO-based products and services and eventually began supporting raw materials category management. And that really was my first exposure to more technically focused stakeholders, where I started to learn to get out of the habit of speaking procurement's language and start speaking the language of our stakeholders. From there, I went to work in procurement for a large health insurance company. This was during the time that the ACA was being rolled out, so there was a lot of focus on indirect costs and a lot of changes to business processes. In that role, I worked really closely with IT and business stakeholders to source solutions that help support those changes in process driven by the changes in the market. I also worked on developing GPO-level agreements, mainly within IT services, software licensing, and telecom services. So again, working closely with stakeholders within the IT and telecom space to ensure that agreements really aligned with their needs. In my time at Source One, I've worked on a number of telecom-related initiatives and helped to support a range of IT product and service sourcing initiatives. My role at Source One is really to lead those engagements with our clients, manage the projects and stakeholder relationships, and ensure that the overarching strategy and approach enables our clients and aligns with their goals and objectives.
Great. Thanks for that introduction, Tory. So to set the stage for us, what are companies typically looking for when they reach out to Source One and your IT sourcing team for help with their IT spend? What are some of the typical challenges that they face?
Sure. So many of our clients are really trying to understand their spend and what's driving the numbers behind their budgets. A lot of times this can come in the form of a more holistic review of spend across the organization driven by the CFO or the CEO. And in that case, we're really looking at anything that's categorized as IT or hitting the CIO's budget. When IT teams engage Source One, they're typically looking to implement a new software platform or replace an existing system that's in place. And they're coming to us for sourcing support and market intelligence within that area. IT services are another large area of growth. A lot of IT departments are trying to get their managed services consolidated or develop stronger strategies around managing those supplier relationships. Generally, across IT, across telecom, a lot of our clients are looking to drive visibility into the spend and optimize the costs associated with their IT and telecom budgets.
And what is it that makes the IT category such a difficult one for procurement organizations to approach?
Well, I think first and foremost, there are some perceived barriers to entry for the procurement departments. Firstly, there's that long history in many organizations of IT acting independently or being siloed from the rest of the organization, including procurement's reach. Because a lot of IT spend is made up of technologies and infrastructure that support the operations of an organization, it might be viewed as almost too critical for procurement to get involved or an area that's hands-off from those traditional cost savings and negotiation strategies because it really is there to enable the business. Procurement departments that are just starting out or looking to build their credibility within the organization might be looking for lower hanging fruit as opposed to looking at more technical or strategic spend. But definitely even more established procurement organizations can find it difficult to add value to IT. Secondly, as procurement departments mature and look to add more value to the organization, they are many times looking to move away from that reactive short-term approach to longer-term, more strategic sourcing and supplier management strategies. IT departments have also begun to move away from transactional or piecemeal hardware, software, and service purchases to a longer-term, more holistic vision for the technologies and solutions they and the organization utilize. A lot of this is driven by business process impacts in addition to the technology requirements that IT is looking at. So you've seen a somewhat similar evolution of the two departments moving to a more strategic view of the organization that you would think kind of naturally aligns them to work closely together. But in reality, IT is playing this critical hands-on role in managing the growing list of tools and solutions that support those business processes across different departments and across the organization. IT groups are at many times under-resourced to be able to support the different components that they need to: configuration, implementation, integration, administration of the solutions, and end-user support, as well as maintenance and security. So it becomes very tough to try and bring in those additional procurement considerations around cost, supplier management, and overall category management. Ultimately, if IT and procurement can overcome the real or perceived hurdles to working together, their individual department goals can actually align quite well.
You mentioned that in some cases, procurement teams are looking to mature as business units, growing their strategic reach. But how is procurement typically viewed by IT groups?
Sure. In many organizations, IT's view of procurement is similar to other departments' view of procurement. They view them as a reactive and tactical function within the organization that's willing to sacrifice service and quality for cost savings. Procurement departments have a lot of work to do as they evolve in communicating their value throughout the organization, but this is a really critical point that's driving IT's perception of procurement. Like we talked about, IT departments are burdened with ensuring technologies and solutions across the organization are working and working correctly, as well as managing that underlying infrastructure, network performance, and everything else that's on their plate. IT is focused also ensuring that end user needs are met, systems are available and performing, so trying to bring in procurement, who many view as cutting costs at all costs. We seem to have very highly conflicting goals. This is why it's so important for procurement to communicate their value, especially to the IT group, as being able to support optimizing a budget as opposed to coming in and just slashing it, and change that perception of procurement from a tactical cost reduction group to a more strategic support function.
For those IT departments hesitant to work with procurement, what is the value that procurement can deliver to IT?
Great question. Procurement brings a sourcing process that allows IT to define their project goals and requirements up front, prioritize their requirements, and evaluate cost and solution models that best align with their goals and objectives. IT can tend to be very comfortable with their preferred suppliers because they're focused on service delivery, like we've talked about. The old adage of better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So this can lead to missed opportunities if strategic sourcing and supplier management methodologies aren't leveraged. Additionally, procurement brings a lot of negotiation experience to the table and can help IT and suppliers look at spend and opportunities more holistically, as well as push for defined and transparent service levels, account management expectations that better support IT in their goals around service delivery. Procurement also brings value by working with IT to define category management plans. They're looking at management of supplier relationships, cost monitoring and auditing, and contract management so that IT groups can really stay focused on service delivery and IT work and allow procurement to support the areas that they really don't have the bandwidth to manage.
So then, what can companies do to better align their procurement and IT groups?
Certainly, procurement as a whole needs to be positioned across the organization as a partner and a support group for making strategic decisions. What I've seen work well is for IT to have a defined point of contact or potentially a group of contacts within procurement that act as a liaison for supporting IT needs from a sourcing and procurement perspective. Once that support structure is defined, it's really critical for procurement to take the time to learn about the different categories within IT, research the suppliers in the market, and develop an understanding of the IT systems and infrastructure in place within the organization. Not necessarily from a highly technical standpoint, but from an overarching priority, dependency, and kind of general knowledge base to be able to really speak IT's language and understand their goals and requirements more clearly. Sometimes this is as simple as just asking questions to IT and making sure that you understand what's driving their specific requirements and goals within specific projects, carrying forward those lessons learned and insights into the next initiative you work on with them.
And what else can procurement groups do to better build relationships with their IT counterparts?
Sure. So procurement should really position themselves as a partner for IT and a group that's invested in understanding the concerns and the priorities of the IT group to better serve them as stakeholders. A good place to start is to work with the IT team to understand the technology roadmap and start trying to anticipate where procurement can support them from 1, 3, and 5-year standpoint. By understanding IT's long-term vision, their goals, and how the group is measured from a performance standpoint, procurement can start focusing conversations on service delivery metrics, driving supplier innovation, and improving service levels, as opposed to leading with cost reduction, which would ultimately alienate the IT group. So ultimately, procurement should look to embed themselves as a strategic partner and decision support group that helps to ease IT's burden and allows them to make better, more informed decisions that help the IT group reach their goals. Procurement can also act as an advocate for the IT group to ensure that as they're brought in to help support other parts of the organization, they're watching out for potential IT impacts or bringing in IT as part of the support function. This may come into play when we're looking at integration points, system requirements, implementation support, or other things that will ultimately end up impacting the IT group. This allows procurement and IT to build a more mutually beneficial relationship and establishes a basis for them to work together on projects across the organization. Really, the underlying crux of these groups working together is for procurement to understand IT's goals and allow procurement to focus on the sourcing and purchasing piece of things, including supplier and contract management, and let IT get back to focusing on service delivery and technology requirements across the organization.
Absolutely. Well said. Tory, thank you so much for your time today and lending us a little of your insight.
Thank you.
For those interested in learning more about how to bridge the gap between procurement and IT, please check out SourceOne's latest white paper, Equipping Procurement to Tackle IT Spend, Building Successful Relationships with Stakeholders. Thanks for listening.